Now, you said something there about Andreas. Is that his name?
Andres, yeah.
When you found him or brought him in, how do you keep, like, when you have that person who's your guy, without him, your business wouldn't be where it is. Let's just say what 100%. It is, right?
No, that's true.
How do you incentivize him, keep him motivated, keep him bought in? Do you give, like, you know,
obviously
sounds like,
well, obviously we take care of them financially, you know, but to be honest, not a lot. It's crazy, but not most people are also driven financially. Like some people, as long as they're getting to pay their bills, they're comfortable. But it's mostly about, like I said, back to the family thing. You know, we try to have meals here at least once a week together. You know, we're always talking. We go to each other's kids' parties. You know, we're a community. We're building a community, and so people like to sense like they belong to something, a bigger mission, a bigger community, and that's what we have. We have a mission here, and we are a community. We help each other out whenever we need it. If we got a problem on the personal, his kids come into work sometimes when he needs to. Like, we're just here to build just one big community around the same mission, which is creating quality apparel.
Steven, you do that too, like with hiring friends and kind of building a tighter knit group. I was always a little scared of doing that, I think, just as, doesn't work out, now what? And it was easier to be a little bit more unbiased, I think, with some of those decisions if we weren't friends before. Steven, how did you think about that? Or is it like they're just the best for the job, so it didn't matter?
So when we started to really grow in the last couple of years, I hired some really close people in my life. Our CFO, our VP of sports, our CTO, I've had previous worked with them, traveled with them. I think when I interviewed them and talked through it, we talked about what would happen if we disagreed. What would happen in our friendship? What if it didn't go right? What if, we talked about these things almost like we were going to like date a little bit, because not everything is going to go really well. And so, I brought them in because they are probably the only people in my life that can counterbalance me. And I trust, right? And trust is a really, really big thing for me. And so when they decided to leave their jobs and join us, and they made that commitment, I also now have to make that commitment to them. I'm now in charge of their livelihood, which is scary a little bit. Like
a lot of it.
Yeah, right? Like I'm in charge. Like, I want to make sure everyone gets paid every 2 weeks, myself included. So then there's things that we do for them to keep them part of the family, whether it's travel, whether it's just little different things here and there, and let them benefit from some of the perks that I have from owning the company, and maybe share those with them a little bit so they can feel like they are part of it. Have you ever thought, Josh, about like giving your key employees a piece of the business?
1,000%. We've already talked about it.
Really? How so?
Oh, yeah.
How would you do it?
So it's going to be vested as they earn it. We're still working out the details with our attorney. But yeah, Andres and Jonathan, both two of my key people here, will definitely have a piece of Subhouse. They won't have any control and say or anything. It'll just be just a piece that they get, their profit every quarter from. But yeah, they're going to get a piece of this business because, like you said, without them, we couldn't build what we built or go where we're going.
So what Josh is referring to, I don't know if S Corps can do this, Bruce, or not, but you can actually issue like equity stocks, like or stock options, or you can issue equity. There's a tool called like Carta that you can use. And what happens is you issue it to them. There's all these legal things that happen. And then there's a vesting period. And so it might say for the first year, it doesn't vest. And then after that, you get a point every 6 months or something like that.
Exactly.
I think this sounds like Phantom, though.
What?
I think this sounds like Phantom stock, which is another form where you don't have to legally offer options, but it creates a revenue share agreement in a way where it allows people to say I think it's more similar to law firms, for example. So, partnership share in some sort of upside of how well the law firm does in the end. Which from my understanding is a lot less of a legal burden because you don't have to set up all of these crazy contracts and everything for a typical stock option, but it does allow people to have a piece of the business and or just the upside.
Bruce, does Carta run like, are there tools out there that manage it?
It may be. Carta.com is a way to like keep track if you have a lot of different folks that have options. So you could definitely use that. I found it kind of complicated, especially if there's only a couple people. But the one tricky thing I had, and I have seen people work it out though, is reinvesting. So it was always a balance of how do you carve out a profit share structure when you're trying to reinvest for future growth. And that was always the push and pull, right? Because it was, well, look, we got to hire this next person because they can help manage this and do that and take this off my plate. But that cuts into the profit share pool. And so, the profit share pool starts to decrease over time. The way that I think if I would have looked back, that would have been better is I would have probably budgeted X percent maybe of salary to give as a bonus and then use that as that like bonus pool and try to budget it that way to give versus let's share in the profit upside. Josh, is that how you're thinking about it, or how do you think you'd carve it out?
To be honest, I don't know. It's to me, I look at it more like you said, overall picture. And to be honest, that's another big reason why Printavo, I think, is going to help us tremendously, because not only for them, but for the whole team here, I've been wanting to set up a bonus structure for quite some time. Yeah. But I haven't had any way to truly measure our KPIs, truly measure our profit. We use QuickBooks like, most other people. But I have to wait for my bookkeeper to go in there and reconcile everything, and then the accountant to check everything out. And so with Printavo and putting in the expenses per job, as well as our overhead expenses I usually do it at the end of the week is how I have it set up now. So any other expenses that don't fit in between each individual job. So like payroll, rent, light, phone, things of that sort. I'll put it in there once a week. And so being able to truly measure those KPIs, not just for Andres and Jonathan, but for the whole team here, I've been wanting to implement just an overall bonus. Like, hey, last month we did X amount of percentage. Here's this, here this, because my big thing is I don't want you to trade your hours for dollars. I want you to be, especially with our sewing thing, they can be really efficient with sewing and really quick with things. And a lot of things we do don't have to be time consuming. So if we can crank out more, which means we can bring in more business, I don't want you to just have your hourly. I want you to also get a bonus on top of that could be measured based on the output.
Mm-hmm. Have you thought about that, Steven, or you guys?
Incentives are hard. They're hard. So they're hard to structure, they're hard to manage, and they're hard to track.
Yeah.
And I've definitely flopped several times, whether it's hey, we're going to create a bonus pool, and for every job that doesn't go well, we'll pull it out of that pool. Well, it was gone.
I remember that.
It was gone. It was gone in
5 years.
It was gone in like 3 days.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we've messed up that order. Oh, there went the bonus pool for the month. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it was like, okay, let's do for every correct job they do, that's perfect, we'll do an extra $1 or something like that. We did that for a while and it worked. But now we're to the point where, leadership is tied into the bottom line of the company, and then employees get bonuses on the holidays, and that's how they operate, right? And so I think when you're small, you can start to do those things, but if you're not careful, you can also lose your employees' trust. They'll be like, they're just trying to gamify too much for me. So I definitely have had some swings, misses,
I've incentivized the wrong thing.
I've incentivized the wrong activity. Yeah, 100%.
Because you think it's like, for example, here's one that I did more on the sales commission side years ago. So we said, oh, okay, hey, look, a new account on average, let's call it, is about $200 a month. Well, let's make it simpler and incentivize new accounts. So, don't think about the revenue, just accounts. Well, team goes, sales team, they're going to figure it out because they want to make more commission. They want to do their thing. Awesome. They start signing up tons of new accounts. Well, guess what? The plans all of these new accounts are on. They're on the lower end plans. Yeah, just to get people in the door. Well, that number doesn't work out to the math I originally had. So the average account print coming in is probably half of the calculated amount. And that commission structure like didn't work, you know? So not that that was a bonus, but kind of similar in that as a commission.
Selling scraps. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. I don't know. I think if anyone has a good employee incentive plan in production, DM us, because I'd love to chat through it. I think what I want to see is there one that has lasted more than like 2 years?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone's got awesome plans, but I'm like, let's check. I mean, this is where we've struck out is sustainability of it. So
although maybe that's okay. Like the company in 2 years is probably very different anyway.
Right.
And what you care about may be very different.
True. But a program should be able to stay consistent, because as you grow, obviously those people then scale up to the next level, but your entry, or you're starting a new fresh wave that should fall into that new or that same category of incentives that you had for that previous level.